The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when Jake and Leo, two inseparable friends, decided to take their fishing trip to the abandoned creek on the outskirts of town. Within the first 10 seconds of stepping onto the slippery Moscovared rocks, a chilling shriek tore through the air. Freezing their blood, something unseen, yet undeniably malevolent, seemed to be watching them. The water shimmered unnaturally, reflecting not the sky above but shadowy, twisting shapes that darted beneath the surface. A sudden gust of wind whispered their names, carrying with it a stench of decay that made their stomachs churn. Panic clutched at their hearts, but curiosity, or perhaps foolish bravery, kept them rooted in place. As they ventured further, the creek widened into a dark pool, its surface perfectly still, almost unnaturally so. Jake reached for his fishing rod, but Leo noticed a faint ripple, a tiny distortion in the water that grew larger with every second. Without warning, a pale hand, grotesque and skeletal, shot up from the depths, dragging a small floating figure beneath. They realized in a horrifying instant that the creek was no ordinary place. Whispers echoed around them, though the woods remained silent. Shadows danced across the trees in impossible ways, bending and twisting as if alive. Their hearts pounded violently, but their legs refused to move. The water began to bubble, and from its murky depths emerged a figure cloaked in tattered rags, its eyes black voids that seemed to pull at their very souls. The two friends stumbled backward, terrified, as the figure rose taller, its presence radiating pure evil. The forest around them seemed to pulse, the air growing thick with whispers and groans of the damned. Jake tried to speak, but his voice was swallowed by a sudden gust that slammed into them like an invisible fist. Leo, wide-eyed with terror, saw small shapes moving under the water, faces pressed against the creek bed, mouths open in silent screams. The malevolent entity lifted its arms, and the water began to churn violently, as if alive, dragging anything nearby toward its center. Fish leaped out of the water, twisting midair in unnatural arcs, only to vanish before touching the ground. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet an invisible force kept them frozen, staring at the horror that had claimed their fishing spot. Suddenly, one of the floating figures once thought dead turned its hollow gaze toward Jake. Its lips cracked into a smile that promised. The world seemed to shrink, darkness pressing in from all sides, drowning their senses. In a burst of desperate courage, Leo grabbed Jake's arm and sprinted blindly through the underbrush, the entity's shrieks echoing behind them. Twigs snapped like bone and shadows lunged from every corner, but somehow, the friends managed to escape the immediate grasp of the supernatural horror. As they collapsed on the muddy bank, gasping and trembling, the creek behind them returned to a deceptive calm, its surface smooth as glass, hiding the atrocities beneath. Even when they finally made it back to the safety of their car, the whispers followed, faint yet persistent, promising that the darkness had not let them go. The two friends never spoke of that night again. But both knew the creek was cursed, inhabited by an ancient spirit that would drag any who dared disturb its waters into its endless nightmare. The memory haunted their dreams, a relentless reminder that some places are not meant for the living. And somewhere in the shadows of that cursed water, the entity waits, patient, watching, always hungry. For more terrifying stories that chill you to the bone, visit and immerse yourself in the world of horror Ambient. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more spine-tingling horrors.